It's 1999, year 2000 to 2020. 20 years after the contract was awarded. The company didn't have money to execute it. The money paid to them, gone. And Aguloye, they awarded the contract, was no longer the minister. So what they now did, the company now sued. No, the company asked Nigeria to compensate them for terminating the contract they got 20 years ago that they did not deliver. Okay. So, and Nigeria has already spent, listen to this, so $6 billion a project. Nigeria already spent over $2 billion. But there's almost nothing to show for it. But the contractor said that they've done the work, they've done the job to some extent before the contract got terminated. And wrongful termination means, excuse me, the contractors demanded for $200 million as compensation. $200 million for what? They didn't do anything. If Nigeria failed to pay them the $200 million, they will sue Nigeria. And if Nigeria should lose, Nigeria would have to pay $2.5 billion. So Buhari that terminated the contract. In the contract, there is a clause there that if the contract gets terminated by Nigeria, Nigeria will compensate them. And failure to means they can sue Nigeria. So they sued Nigeria to a court of arbitration, the arbitration court in Paris. That was what Buhari went on to go and be a witness. Okay. Now, you see that man himself is standing trial in Nigeria. This Aguloye guy, an old man now, is standing trial for corruption, for mismanagement. No, like they said, he mismanaged over $2 billion as power minister who generated darkness. Why is an elder statesman? They call people like this elder statesman. All right. So the man said, no, it's Obasanjo that is punishing him because he no longer listened to Obasanjo. These are kind of like a blame game and all that. So right now, they are waiting for, so two former presidents of Nigeria, Obankparo as well as Buhari, they were both in France to bear witness that the contractors, number one, they were not competent to do the job. Number two, Nigeria shouldn't pay them any compensation. That was what they went to do in France. So this is just by the way, just so you know that in case if you see the breaking news, you know, in another few days or a few weeks, that Nigeria, it's going to be either way anyway. If they say Nigeria lost, maybe say like that Shangzhou company that got their contract as well terminated in Ogun State. Remember, these guys that are now seizing the asset of Nigeria all over the world, the ones that took Nigeria's Liverpool house. It is similar to this as well. Okay, just in case if you hear breaking news, Nigeria to pay so company 2.something billion, or breaking news, Nigeria has won, right? So they won't have to pay any dime. That's why I'm mentioning this now. Okay. So Buhari was spotted yesterday returning back to the contraption from France. Again, international news, you would call it. This was Buhari returning back to Abuja. In that same international news was Wale, Edun, Edun, your Minister of Finance, the lying empty head. The lying head, by the way. So he was interviewed by the Bloomberg in Davos in Switzerland, where they went on to do the Mambila again. And he was being asked, how far with all this your, travel and all that, how is Nigeria economy doing? But this guy with bold face, straight face, said Nigeria economy is far, far better now. And that's not true. He said Tinubu has attracted over $10 billion. That is also not true. But he said it with straight face enough that I wish the Oyibo interviewing him can just be like, you're not making any sense. But they won't say that because for the camera, right? It all has to look good, just kind of like fine. So I'm bringing that to you here. Wale Edun.
How will you ensure Nigeria attracts more foreign capital?
Thank you very much. Under the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigeria has stabilized the economy. It has taken back 5% of GDP that was being wastefully lost to the federal government and the fiscal authorities. And the long and the short of it is that some major steps that have been taken to achieve market pricing of petroleum products, market pricing of foreign exchange, thereby eliminating what were very wasteful subsidies, has set the stage for the return of foreign direct investors. The early signs are very, very positive. Already, Shell has announced a $5 billion final investment decision. Total Energies has announced a $3 billion total investment decision, final investment decision. And in the non-oil sector, we have, as part of our conversations this week, we have had investments, indications, and I won't say announcements, but definitely firm indications from financial payments, international financial payments companies, from companies that want to do public-private partnerships in the infrastructure area, as well as fast-moving consumer goods companies that are already in Nigeria that are investing even more.
Nigeria has been in talks with Saudi Arabia to attract investment for years. Nigerian officials were in Riyadh late last year. What is the stumbling block to Nigeria actually receiving the funds that were committed?
Well, I'm not sure that funds were actually committed. It's an ongoing conversation. It's part of the president's economic diplomacy around the world to, as I said a year ago, telling the story that he was determined, that there was a determination by the administration to stabilize the macroeconomic environment and make it conducive for investors. And that story was told in the Middle East, in Asia, in Europe, and of course in other parts of the world. So it is on the basis of that that the conversations in Saudi Arabia, amongst other countries in the Middle East, is an ongoing one, and we're sure that it will end up with the private sector, in particular, in countries such as Saudi Arabia, investing in investing in Nigeria, in sectors that create jobs and grow the economy.
Are you considering another Eurobond sale this year?
Well, I think if you look at our budget presentation, which is currently going through the National Assembly, the Parliament in Nigeria at the moment, the one thing you'll notice that yes, there is some deficit spending, and that has to be covered, not as in the past by printing of money, but going to the financial markets and purchasing on reasonable terms. those funds. It's a whole gamut of financial instruments are at our disposal: concessional finance, bilateral, and of course the commercial markets.
If you were to do it, when would you go to the market, and how much do you plan to raise?
As always, such things are a question. It's the question of timing, it's a question of sequencing, and it's much too early to say, because the emphasis in Nigeria now is on equity. The emphasis on government applying the latest technology to ramp up the revenues that it collects from its government-owned enterprises, as well, of course, ramping up oil production, which is already increasing, and at these elevated levels, that too is an important contribution to government revenues. And so these are all aspects of government financing that are important to us.
The Naira weakened by more than 40% against the dollar last year. What's your assessment of the currency's current value against the dollar? Do you think it's fairly valued?
Well, I mean, you can do all kinds of analysis. You can do purchasing power parity. You can compare the inflation differentials. But I think what matters is that we have instituted market pricing of foreign exchange that has brought liquidity to the market, that has brought inflows of foreign exchange, and allowed us to build up the reserves of Nigeria by about 30% from the beginning of last year to this year.
You said during a panel discussion yesterday that the IMF should be more flexible about lending. Could you elaborate on those comments? Are you suggesting that Nigeria's loan repayments should be restructured?
No, well, first of all, let me just go back to the issue of the exchange rate, and to say that an important aspect, because you've pointed to a weakened exchange rate, an important aspect of that weakened exchange rate is the competitiveness that it brings to the Nigerian economy, the competitiveness it brings to Nigerian exports in particular, and manufactured exports, and we are seeing success in that area. So that is really the way we look at the issue of the exchange rate. In terms of the, as I mentioned earlier, that the multilateral institutions are part of the range of financing options, and of course we're always looking for better terms. We're always looking for better terms, not just for Nigeria, but even for other poor countries, other developing countries, particularly African ones.
What was the budget deficit last year, and what is the forecast for this year?
The budget deficit for, the 2023, we met it at 6.1%. By the third quarter of last year, it was about 4.4%. And we're budgeting.
Nuisance, Lily.
Where should I start from breaking up these lies? Okay, let's start from the last one. You be the judge. Deficit means how much you are short of in your budget. So, for example, in 2023, right? In 2024, right? The budget of Tinubu's budget was 28 trillion. And they claimed that they planned on generating 18 billion. So which means the deficit was somewhere around 10 billion. Baba, 28 billion. So if you have a chart, a pie chart like this, and this is 28 billion, and then you have to divide it and say, okay, 18 billion, we take this, and 10 billion, we don't have that, so we'd have to borrow it. Can you call that 6%? Can you call your deficit 6%? 10 billion out of 28 billion. 28 trillion rather, 10 trillion. You are going to borrow 10 trillion. You don't have it. Or you had 18, you plan to have 18 trillion. That is more than 30%, if not like 40% deficit. Yeah, it is. In 2025, in their 2025 budget, they are proposing 48 of 49 trillion. Okay? They plan on generating 23 trillion. So 26 trillion, which according to them, 16 trillion is going to be for repayment of their debt servicing. And then another maybe 10 or so trillion is considered as deficit in that budget. However, now, if you say you want to spend 49 trillion and you are projecting that you are going to raise 23 trillion and you are going to borrow the rest, about deficit here could delay 50%. Is that not over 50%? This is a layman economics, so I'm doing maths here. Let's not forget about all other economic jargons that they normally push for you, right? Forget about that. Because last year in 2023, last year, 2024, officially, they said the national debt was put at 87 trillion minus the 27.5 trillion that Buhari printed. If you add the 27.5 trillion to 87 trillion, 94, it will be 114.5 trillion national debt. Today, as of September 2024, the Nigeria national debt is now put at 194 trillion. That's it. 194 trillion. Wait. Chai. So now you say in 20 months, in 20 months, Tinubu has added over 70 trillion debts already, plus money they printed, plus the one they borrowed, plus the bond they raised. What can you actually show for that? What can anybody here show me that they have done with the money? Anyway, that's the deficit. He's talking about exchange rates. Yeah, we have now liquidated the economy. We have kineko. The exchange rate, these guys met exchange rate at 610 naira to $1 in 2023. 20 months after that, exchange rate is now 1,650 naira to $1. That's like 1,000 naira extra. 1,000% crash. All because of IMF, World Bank. They are continuing to give them these horrible conditions before they give them loans. And in these 20 months, this IMF and the World Bank, they have given Tinubu over $8.6 billion. $8.6 billion. Afrexim Bank, $3.3 billion, right? In the bond market that they have been raising, they've raised over $2 billion from the bond market. Add everything together, that is more than that's more than $14 billion. Using the exchange rates, right? That's more than 28 trillion naira debt. Then add that. God damn it, man. Nigeria will make Nigeria will escape. Like, there's no way. And these guys who are lying that they are attracting investor, ask them. Apart from this new, there's this oil field. It's not field. It's like an offshore. Which one is offshore? Is that the one inside water they call offshore? I mean, onshore. Hi. There's this particular oil block that has been controversial for a very long time. Now they have given it to Ando. And Ando and the rest of them, they have given it to Total. And then Shell, who has copped out. They said they will give them $5 billion in the next, I think it's in the next 5 years. They will give them $5 billion or $8 billion in total. And that means once they begin to kind of take the oil, that's what they are calling investment. Ask them. That guy said, you've been to Saudi Arabia. You said Saudi pledged some money. He said, no, not really. We have been going on diplomatic conversation. Which one is diplomatic conversation? You went to Saudi Arabia, you went to Riyadh. You told your mugus in Nigeria that the Saudi is coming to invest in Nigeria. They are coming to invest in agriculture. They are coming to invest in your oil industry. Saudi Arabia. So he's saying that the other areas, that one asks, are you going to go back to the market and raise another money, like bond? It's a matter of timing, because we are trying to, according to they are trying to increase the oil pumping of crude oil. Sure, you get, like, if we begin to pump like 2 million barrels a day, we expect that to give us more money so that we don't really have to. He didn't answer that correctly, because number one,